I am Community Chloe. Welcome to Her Story RVA, a virtual women's empowerment series curated with Black women in mind. This episode is sponsored by Urban Baby Beginnings. Now, we're back with this episode with UBB for Black maternal mental health. This evening, we'll be discussing the signs of that contribute to postpartum depression, symptoms of maternal mental health disorders, Black barriers women face in accessing care, and more. Tonight, we are joined again with founder and executive director of Urban Baby Beginnings. Come on in, Miss Stephanie Spencer.
Hello, Chloe. It's great to see you today.
All right, so tell people about Urban Baby Beginnings and your role.
Sure, absolutely. I'm the executive director and founder of Urban Baby Beginnings, and our goal is to make sure that moms and babies have the support and resources that are necessary for them to have the best outcome as possible. And we do that through our maternal health hubs. Many people don't know that we have 4 maternal hubs across the state, and we also have virtual platforms to help connect with families and communities as well.
Well, thank you for sharing. And I'm also excited to introduce our very special guest joining us this evening. She is Janine Rogers, who is a birth sister. Come on in, Janine. How you doing?
Hey, everybody. I'm good, and you?
That's good stuff. Birth sister, certified lactation specialist, LES, and supporter of herbal healing. I can't wait to hear about that. Supporting all pregnant persons in their journey
Mhm.
through education and resources. Janine is here to speak from a lived experience angle. I call her my Miss Birth Sister. All right, so we're going to delve right in. According to the marchofdimes.org, Black Maternal Mental Health Week is July 19th through the 25th and raises awareness of maternal mental health issues affecting Black women during pregnancy, childbirth, and after. Now, to the both of you, starting with you, Janine, followed by Stephanie, in your own words, can you explain to us what maternal mental health means to you and why is it so important?
What it means to me is experiencing pregnancy, labor, delivery, postpartum trauma free, trying to break the cycles that unfortunately a lot of the women and our ancestors have experienced surrounding birth. So, what it means is setting up a foundation that is conducive for healthy environments, physically, mentally, psychologically, spiritually. And it's so important for me because I want to make sure I'm kind of reclaiming the information that was blocked to our ancestors, that was blocked to our community. So making sure that we're kind of saving the world, one pregnant person at a time.
Janine, thank you for that. Stephanie?
Of course.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with Janine in this, but also say that, it's all of the factors that we need to have that surround us that help to ensure that we are healthy mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that's also looking at our social conditions, where we live, work, and play, and being safe and free of the trauma that Janine experienced. Is related to making sure that we have strong social supports, whether it be in our external or internal environments.
Mhm.
After the birth of her son in December of 2020, I'm talking about Janine, and having been pregnant through a worldwide pandemic, extreme racial unrest, and one of the most historic elections in America, Janine found her calling and wanting to support other women in their pregnancy journey. Wow. Given your title, can you explain to viewers what a birth sister and certified lactation specialist really is? And could you expand on your experience also as an herb healing supporter?
Absolutely. So that's a great question because right now we see a boom in people wanting to become birth sisters or doulas.
Hmm.
And there's often a misconception or a misinformation around the difference between who is a doula and what do they do, and who is a midwife and what do they do. I like to separate myself as like I'm like the pregnancy coach. I'm the pregnancy therapist.
Okay.
So I'm the person that's leading the way to make sure you have the best possible experience through your pregnancy, labor, delivery, and into postpartum, where your midwife is the medical professional. I am in no situation nor am I educated to save or sustain the life of you or your baby if things do happen to take a turn. I am there to make sure that you feel supported, validated, seen, held, hugged, and if you need water, I'm the person with the straw. If you need a snack, I'm the person with the fork. If you need some hip squeezes, I'm the person with the strength. I'm the person that's there to guide you through. Your midwife is the person who's going to make sure that you get through it healthy and safely for you and your baby. As a lactation education specialist, so I am on pathway, hopefully, to become an IBCLC eventually. But right now,
What is that?
so an IBCLC is an internationally board certified lactation consultant.
Okay.
So the main difference between myself and those letters is hours. So you could think of right now, I'm like Jiffy Lube for breastfeeding. So I can give you the ins and outs of everything. So it's like if you have a car, if you need an oil change, you can go there for oil change.
Yeah.
But an IBCLC is like if you had a Porsche, you wouldn't take it to Jiffy Lube. You would take it to the Porsche dealership to get that specific service for your make and model.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that I'm well educated. So I can become an IBCLC, so I can provide you specific information to your case and provide you a hands-on experience. So that's the main difference. And many, many hours and clinical hours and teachings and mentorships.
Yeah.
But as a lactation education specialist, I can provide you like breastfeeding 101. So if you're experiencing any discomfort or pain with latch positioning, output, how much milk you're producing, I'm your girl.
Well, you
As
should have
far
been
as
around back then.
listen, so the world of
Teaching us
lactation,
stuff.
especially the world of lactation in terms of hospital support is still very, very young. It's only, what is it, Stephanie, like 40, 45 years old?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people, again, going back to the misinformation, there are a lot of birthing people that were given a lot of false information around what their body wasn't doing in regard to milk production and making it the woman's fault, or I don't want to say woman, the birthing person's fault that they couldn't produce any breast milk. But now we understand that there are a lot of different variables that can go into play around what milk production looks like. As far as me being an herbal healer, so I took a basic class in terms of like what some postpartum herbs, especially, can look like for your postpartum healing. So if you are looking to do a sitz bath and you want those herbs, I'm your girl to name those down. If you're looking to do some womb healing, I'm your girl to point you in the direction of how to access certain herbs to help you gain some access back to some pelvic floor strength, to nourish your womb, to nourish your body, even your skin. But understanding that there are a lot of things that are in place that we have access to that aren't necessarily Western medicine based. There are a lot of holistic benefits in herbs and spices that benefit us in postpartum, even in pregnancy and labor, that we really need to gain a lot more education on.
And that's especially for your skin. A lot of times, the skin and the scarring and the discoloration. So that's really good to know, Janine, birth sister. Thank you for that.
No.
Stephanie, can you explain to us what maternal mental health disorders include and
Sure.
what are some of the causes of that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a range of disorders and symptoms, and some of that can be depression, anxiety, or even psychosis. And these disorders are normally not. These disorders can occur during pregnancy and or during the postpartum period. Often you'll hear people use the word PMADs, which are perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, which are really moving into more extreme issues that moms experience during mental health crises. But the thing that you have to understand about mental health disorders are that they are not the baby blues. So, baby blues is like you come home, everybody's paid all this attention to you, and a couple of days later, all of a sudden you're like, I've got this baby, I'm not sleeping, I'm crying a little bit, I feel like I'm overwhelmed, and that happens to about 85% of new mothers.
Yeah.
And it usually is also, they're very sensitive. Like I remember my husband at the time, he had his friend over and, they were eating pizza and I had this baby. I feel like I told the story before, but I had this baby and baby was latched to my breast and I could not eat. And next thing you know, I was throwing stuff, because I was so upset over that. And the reality is that emotional sensitivity tends to pop up in those first 2 to 3 weeks. And that's baby blues. But, these mental health disorders are really things that can either be that someone has been treated for this before, but also it can also pop up during the prenatal and postpartum period. And what causes that is it's many things. It can be really biological and physiological, but there can also be social stressors that bring people into having these disorders. And so I like to always talk about that because I think people don't realize when you have a baby how much support is necessary. And families, they're so excited to see the baby initially, they forget that this is an 18-year journey now, and that first year is really tough.
Mhm.
And so, what can also push people into having mental health disorders is having a lack of support, experiencing a traumatic birth, as Janine mentioned as well, their baby being in the NICU or them having a experience of being hospitalized on long term, or even having, like I said, a previous experience with anxiety, depression, or any other mental health disorder. But lastly, I want to add that when we start to try to contextualize mental health issues, and what I mean by that is, there is a diagnosis that people can give, but there's reasons why these things happen. We also need to talk about what it means to be in an environment where our social needs are not being met. So, as an example, we don't have safe housing, we don't live in a safe environment, we're not able to contribute financially to the things that we need to in order to take care of our babies. All of those things can also can exacerbate or increase the risk of having a maternal health condition. And then just going back again to the lack of support, it is also important to recognize that not having healthy support can also contribute, and that's also inclusive of having lack of partner support as
Yeah.
well.
I love it when we do her story and understanding that it really does, and it may sound like a cliche, but it's really important for the village to support pregnant people and after the birth when you come home. And again, and thank you so much for sharing with us the differences between baby blues and the postpartum depression. But for me and all family, my entire family was there. And a lot of folks who may be viewing us tonight, families were there the entire time. I did have the baby blues because the entire family is there. I had the help, but I felt alone.
Mhm.
Did you guys feel that way even though you had family around?
Mhm.
You have this human being who needs you, who needs to latch on, and the only way they're going to eat is by you, and you don't feel like it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, the isolation. And
Yeah.
that's something that I try to explain to a lot of, especially my first time moms, is there is nothing I can do, especially if you're choosing to breast or chest feed.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do or say that can prepare you for the monster that is breastfeeding.
Hmm.
Like pregnancy, labor, delivery, that's in perspective, the easy part. Like it's once you get home and you're alone and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you see your partner sleep
Oh, yeah.
and you're exhausted and you're thirsty and you're hungry and your breast hurt and you're bleeding and your back hurts, and who knows what your birth experience was. If you had a cesarean birth, now your incision hurts, you're worried about that, intrusive thoughts start to come in, all of these things, like it happens like a wall of bricks. So understanding that isolation
Hmm.
is overwhelming and it can become very damaging, and it can feel like you are stuck and it can feel permanent. And
Hmm.
that's where I really, piggybacking with what Stephanie said, is a
Hmm.
big difference between baby blues and postpartum depression anxiety is it feels permanent. It
Hmm.
feels like a fog that cannot be lifted.
Yeah.
It feels like you have a weighted blanket on your shoulders and you're just too small to get it off. So trying to, and it's one of those things where you don't understand it until you're in it.
Yeah. True.
And you can talk to people, especially when it's surrounding breastfeeding. You can talk to people about like, oh, I don't want to waste that 1 ounce of milk. And they're like, well, it's just milk. No, it's not just milk.
Not. It's
I
not.
worked really, really hard for this 1 ounce. We
Yeah.
gonna see if we can get this finished in these 2 hours.
But when you look at that happy, healthy baby, even though you might have those challenges, some of us do, and the nipple confusion, all of those things go through that. But
Mhm,
when you see those chunky cheeks and they're advancing,
mhm,
they understand your commands and more, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
And as you did say, Janine, for pregnant people or after birth, whether it's on their chest or breast, it's amazing after you get through the pain. But anyway, we don't want to talk about breastfeeding the whole time, but it's the best way to go. Breastfeeding, we loved it. Yes, we did. What are some factors that increase maternal mental health conditions among Black women and birthing people?
I definitely think like there's societal things, really looking at systemic racism, feeling a sense of belonging in the system, and not feeling listened to or heard when we are having conditions can really contribute to some mental health related issues. Socioeconomic status, no matter how many people, talk about the fact that it's rooted in one thing or the other, we have to recognize that when a mom becomes pregnant, that it's the first time, it may be the first time she's really thinking about what else do I need to do to make this safer for my baby.
Mhm.
And if you don't have the solid finances to get to that level, it can be very hard to imagine what it can look like to have a baby that's thriving. And it is possible, but it is something that can increase mental health conditions. And, in Richmond, more specifically, we talk a lot about the environment and the trauma and exposure to violence. We have to recognize that that does play some part
Mhm.
in mental health conditions overall. Um, we have worked as a state for a long time to try and address issues such as lack of insurance, looking at Medicaid expansion. But when people don't have access to medical insurance, they're not caring for themselves in the same way because there's a barrier to accessing care and
Mhm.
also affordability of care when you don't have access to insurance. And that also means that someone may be entering into pregnancy or in the postpartum period, not necessarily being treated for mental health conditions or even chronic conditions that they may have had for a long time before they became pregnant.
Mhm.
There's when you are a child, like there's all the types of things I think about in my childhood. There are things, and they're called adverse childhood experiences. And I know that's a big term, but it's really about all of
ACS.
the yeah, all of the things that have happened to you over your lifetime that may have been traumatic to you as a child can contribute to you having, as a Black woman, additional experiences during your pregnancy and postpartum. And that's when they tend to pop up or
Mm.
causing you to have issues with mental health, such as increased anxiety or depression. And surprisingly enough, not being able to see yourself in a medical system, meaning not seeing Black and brown people in the system that you're entering in, can increase your likelihood or risk of having increased anxiety that is long lasting, because we know, statistically speaking, that when Black women are taken care of by women of color, that there's a more likely a chance for them
Mhm.
to have a better outcome. So imagine going into a space, realizing that you can't find that, and hoping to be able to do that and looking for representation and not seeing it. And then just lastly, really thinking about the risk of pregnancy and childbirth complications. I know that Janine's brought up a lot about breastfeeding, and the reason why is because in order for you to really have a healthy breastfeeding experience, you can start off being very healthy in your mental health, but it can also cause you to have other challenges as well in the mental health space when you aren't able to get things resolved, and that's the complication. And then again, mentioning lack of access to care and lack of access to high quality care
Mhm.
and high quality mental health care is a
Yeah.
true issue for Black women.
Stephanie, this is so good. So we talked about barriers. How can urban baby beginnings remove some of these barriers when it comes to pregnant people?
We have worked really, really hard to create systems of care
Mm.
through these maternal health hubs that are reflective of the communities that we serve. So, as an example, in Richmond and Petersburg, but also in Newport News and in Norfolk, we have these safe spaces where people can go to connect with people like birth sisters, such as Janine and others who have gone through this experience, and ensure that they have created protective factors for community members to experience something better, to get information, to get resources, to have advocacy, to connect with those providers that look like them, or to find trusted providers in the community if that's not accessible.
Mhm.
I would also say that we realize that there's an issue with access to care, and so we collaborate with hospital systems and managed care organizations who are all dedicated to making sure that families are connected appropriately to services. So we have care coordinators and navigators that are in the hospitals as well as clinics and the ground level, because what we're trying to do is to get you into our safe space, to get you to the next journey, and to have someone that's well along the way with you.
Yeah.
And, for us, we do try to stay as long as we can with families. Some people will say, I really want that postpartum journey, to have that birth sister with me, and I might need care coordination for, even several years. But we've created space as well within our Sisters Keepers groups, our diaper outreach programs, all kind of things to make sure that families are, treated well and that they get the services and supports they need.
This is really, really good, Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here, and our birth sister as well. And we talked about collectively and community and cultural sensitivity when it comes to issues of us and birth and pregnancy and life after. So, Janine, in your own words, why is a peer support specialist so needed?
I think it's to help bridge the gap and again to misinformation. So there's an author who I love. Her name is Trisha Hersey,
Hmm.
and she has this huge following. And her motto is "Reclaiming the Rest That My Ancestors Didn't Get," and it's called the NAP Ministries.
Hmm.
So understanding for myself in my journey through postpartum depression, anxiety, and in speaking with clients, understanding that you are deserving of peace, and with that peer support, having that one-on-one connection with someone else who may have experienced what you may be experiencing, when you may feel like you're going to be judged for talking about those intrusive thoughts, when you may feel like you don't have any support around what your depression may look like. It might look like a different color, but we're still on the same color wheel. So
Hmm.
having that understanding and having that connection is really important, so you don't feel isolated, you don't feel alone in making the decisions to find help or to seek support. You don't feel alone in speaking with somebody, even if it's in the middle of the night. If you can find a good warm line to call,
Oh,
you
that's
don't feel you don't feel alone.
yeah.
And it motherhood, especially parenthood, can feel back to very isolating.
Hmm.
And what Stephanie said, there are a lot of variables that go into play about it. But
Yeah.
when we look at the generational aspect of it, a lot of us didn't see our mothers relax. So we have been passed down this grind culture
Yeah.
of it doesn't matter if I'm in pain. It doesn't matter if I feel like crying. The
Mm.
dishes still need to be washed. The
Yes.
laundry still needs to be done. The children still need to be taken care of. Where now you start to see a shift in cultural generations where we're going on brunch dates with our husbands, our wives, our significant others. We're going on vacations without our children, and teaching our children that we have a life outside of them is really important, not just for us but for them to understand again that you are deserving of this peace, you are deserving of this rest, you are deserving of these peer relationships that make you the better version of yourself so you can show up for your family. So
Mm.
it's that shift I feel like that we're starting to see. I mean, because the most I saw my mother do was go get her hair done and her nails done, but then she
Yeah.
still came back home and got back to the daily grind of things.
Hmm.
So, to the extent of self care, that's
Mm.
what it has looked like, especially for a lot of Black and Brown women, where it wasn't going on a vacation by yourself. It
Yeah.
wasn't going on a vacation just with your significant other
Hmm.
for weeks on end. It wasn't going out with your girlfriends. It wasn't those things. So now changing what that looks like and understanding, like, I need you, especially for first time moms, whomever their significant person is, whether it be their supportive person, a mother, a sister, a brother, a cousin. I need you to start thinking about what your first night out looks like without your baby. And they're like, wait a second, my baby's only a month old. Exactly. You've been in the house for 4 to 6 weeks. So what does that
I want
look
to
like
leave
for
my
you?
baby. I want to leave my
But and that's the thing. Like we were tethered, literally tethered to another person. That
yeah.
tether has been cut.
Yeah.
So psychologically we still feel those things.
Yeah.
But it's important for us to understand, for us to show up as the best possible person, we have to take care of ourselves.
Well,
And that's why
can
when
you teach me how to tether off a 17-year-old?
put
It
your
might
mask
be a
on
little bit
first.
too late.
I'm just saying. So, Janine, thank you so much for all of that information. All we have lots of takeaways from you. That was power talking about, because once you become that mother or that person, it's like your life has changed and this is my only focus. I don't ever get an opportunity to think about me. I want to rest. I want to take a bath. I want to go out. I want to see my friends. So that was powerful right there. And to talk about the history of it, because we do come from backgrounds where our families moved. You drop a baby, keep it moving.
Correct.
So, Stephanie, any takeaways from you before we go?
I think the main thing is that, and I always encourage the moms, don't be the superwoman. It's not necessary, but you do need to build your village of support. And sometimes that can look like within your family, but there are also external things that you need to have as well. We encourage people to reach out to get the care and support that they need, connect with people such as Janine and others within our organization. Or if you're in other communities, there might be others that you can also connect with as well. But don't do this alone. And I think also just to recognize the fact that it is okay to seek care and support when you don't feel like you can move any further. And the reality is, why we're talking about this is because Black women are not screened well. Even though they may be presenting with issues, they don't receive the same level of screenings that their white counterparts do. And so we need to make sure that, one, we are asking for that quality care,
Yeah.
making sure we're connecting with mental health and social supports, and then holding even ourselves accountable and our communities accountable for creating those safe spaces for us to go. And then lastly, if you are experiencing a mental health crisis or think you might be, there is a line that is a hotline on the federal side that will connect you with someone that can help you, not only at if it is a crisis, but can also help you to connect with resources. And in Virginia, we also have an organization called Postpartum Support Virginia, which supports many different people through social support groups and others. And that is something that is accessible to everyone. You just have to go to their website and it will allow you to connect with their peer support warm line and others. And then lastly, just know that mental health and maternal mental health are a priority for this administration. And we're going to continue in Virginia to build strong support structures so people can be wealthy and health well, I want them to be wealthy, but I want them also to be healthy.
Yeah, it feels a little better when you got a little wealth with it, right?
Right.
We want to thank Stephanie Spencer of Urban Baby Beginnings. We want to thank our birth sister, Janine Rogers, for being here with us. A wealth of information. If you need to watch this over and over and over, please do reach out to Urban Baby Beginnings if you need more. And we're going to be back with her story. We're going to talk about Black breastfeeding awareness.
Whoop
Breast
whoop.
hurts. I am Community Club of Radio 1 Richmond. Thanks for watching.